Chris, Nas has historically played really well against the Warriors. Just what are you seeing from him so far in this series in terms of maybe trying to get him going a little bit more?
Yeah, like heavy switching lineups, stuff like that. And, I think they've been putting some of their better one-on-one defenders on him, and just trying to, mitigate the damage that he has done. So, smart move by them, and we got to find a way to free him up. So.
How about defensively from him as well? Just what are you seeing in his kind of?
Yeah, I mean, we've got him doing a lot of different things out there. So, sometimes it probably might be a little bit too much. Just I think he's trying to, maybe we're overloading, his kind of coverages. But, we feel like we need to do a lot of that to achieve what we're trying to achieve. But just as long as he stays out of foul trouble, that's kind of plagued him a little bit too. So on both, and that obviously leads to less opportunities on offense.
Chris, you've had a lot of success letting players work through trouble during the midst of regular seasons. Do you try to have the same philosophy in postseason, let guys work through their trouble, or are you more apt to bring somebody else in if somebody's struggling?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we know that all of our guys can play and can contribute. Generally going to give them as long of a runway as they need to do that. I think we saw last, series how it paid off for Rudy in the end. So that's where we'll start. But, we're always open to bringing in somebody if we feel that, the game needs that rather.
Chris, what John was asking about Nas, I was going to ask about Dante. He seems to be out of sorts for whatever reason. Is there something you see, or is it just the way the game's been rolling for him?
Yeah, I mean, every game, every series is a little different. Like, try not to overreact to all that. We know we need those guys to step up. We know that some of what makes us really good is our bench production and those guys' ability to come in. We got to try to get those guys going. But, again, there are heavy points of emphasis for Golden State, and sometimes that's just how it goes. So.
This is the first time you have a chance to close out a series at home in your tenure here. What are maybe the differences, home closeout game versus road, in terms of atmosphere or emotions that may come across that are different from the road?
Well, I mean, listen, I think we've certainly brought that to our players' attention, but less so in terms of trying to check some box or achieve some objective. We want to be focused, play better at home. We've been up and down at home at times. Put a complete game together, take care of business. I think those are things that, come to the arena super focused on the game plan and the small points that we need to execute. Focus on that stuff, and everything takes care of itself. Right?
Where we're at right now in the second round, I think you guys in Indiana are tied for second for most wins in the last two postseasons, only behind Boston.
Okay.
Did you recognize, it's been kind of a short amount of time, but you guys have been one of the most successful teams. And do you think there's a sense of the moment for everyone that it might, look what happened with Boston with Tatum going down. This might be the moment here.
We've been saying that not just specific to us, but when you look around the league, we've not had back-to-back champions for how long? Teams who think they're entering a period of time with a long window, things change drastically. We had Memphis a couple years ago. Anything can happen. So I always feel it's got to be your opportunity to go for it when you have a chance. And a ton of basketball to be played yet, but you can't take anything for granted right now. Obviously it's super unfortunate what happened with Jason the other night, but by the same token, just the parity in the league makes it so hard. So.
You seem to really thrive being an underdog, and even Ant said after the last game that they were kind of playing like they had won 4 games. Mm-hmm. How do you still keep that chip on your shoulder and coach these guys to not be overconfident today?
Yeah, that's the challenge, and that's where our maturity has to come through. It starts with the guys, and those guys gotta stay motivated, and there's a lot to accomplish, and we're playing a team with championship pedigree, so they're not going anywhere, and they're going to play desperate, and they're going to play give us everything they got, and they got some guys who can really, they got some winning players over there, so we have to be on guard.
Chris, to your point about playoff success and no repeat champion, I think since the Warriors in 17-18, how do you sort of put what they did in context? I mean, Steph and Draymond and Kerr, this core of this, not only 4 titles, but I think this is the 8th conference semifinal in 11 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's, they're no longer in their dynastic phase, I would say, but the era of Golden State basketball is still rolling on, and they're very, very relevant, and they have been. Even when they've when they've not been at the top in the last number of years, a lot of it's been injury driven, which has been unfortunate for them, but it's incredible what they've done and what they've built and what they've accomplished, and in doing so, really also in many ways changed how the game is played. So.
Chris, watching back some of the games that when rewatching, you kind of notice that Julius has pulled you out of a rut, and kind of stabilized that. How have you stabilized the offense? Mm-hmm. How have you seen him kind of grow his sense for the feel of those type of moments?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with his patience. I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that we know we have a much better feel, myself included, of when to go to him, when to feature him, when to play through him, and where. I think we've got a comfort level there, and I think he also realizes that those moments are going to come back to him if they're not always there. So it's just, I think it just comes with having a peace of mind on, who he is, who we are, and how he fits into who we are. So.
Chris, kind of piggybacking off of that, you've talked about Ant as a home run hitter quite a bit.
Yeah.
With Julius kind of being able to hit those singles and doubles in times where Ant maybe, isn't creating kind of that avalanche that he did in the third quarter the other night. Do you think that Julius and Ant have kind of figured out that, okay, this is when we really need to play through Julius versus Julius kind of understanding, I can feel kind of Ant coming up behind me, and this is the time when we need to kind of go through him?
Yeah, it does feel like the rhythm of the game that they have kind of figured that out. I still think there's growth for them to actually accentuate each other in some more actions at times. I think that's still a work in progress, and it's gotten much, much better. It really has. But, they understand how to play off each other within the rhythm of the game, which I think is what you're talking about. So.